Hello, everyone. We'll be starting very shortly, so tune in. Just waiting for a few people to join in, and then we can start today's session. I hope you're having a great evening, and today we have some amazing guests who are here to kind of go through a lot about Trash Week. So, with that, good evening and thank you for joining us in this series of events as the British Council continues to host online events in the lead up to COP26. The United Kingdom will host the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP26, in Glasgow, Scotland from 1st to 12th November 2021. The summit will bring together over 30,000 delegates from around the world, including heads of states, climate experts, and campaigners, to agree coordinated action to address climate change. At the British Council, we believe that placing young people at the heart of dialogue and action is the key to tackling climate change. They are the key resource for us to invest in to support a sustainable future, as they are the next generation of leaders to take on this vast challenge. The British Council's Climate Connection program brings people around the world together to meet these challenges of climate change. Drawing on our global network, the Climate Connection program connects 200 million people from different countries, generations, and backgrounds. Young people and policymakers, artists and scientists, business and community leaders, and of course, many others. In particular, it focuses on the next generation of climate leaders and gives practical support to young people and communities most impacted by climate change, helping them share their perspectives globally and achieve real change. You can, of course, discover how we can address climate change together at britishcouncil.lk programs climate-connection. This week's series of programs focuses on waste management and the role of human beings in the waste cycle and the social and economic benefits of an effective and efficient system to address waste. Of course, we will be focusing on some particular aspects of waste management methodologies, and we hope that today's discussion will give you plenty of food for thought and, of course, action. This evening, we have three change makers who have taken very innovative and sustainable solutions to waste and its management. They will each make short presentations, and then we will have them all on screen for a short panel discussion, which we hope you will join in with your questions and comments via the chat. Our first guest is Sanjeewa Chulakumara. He is the director of INSEE EcoCycle Lanka Private Limited and an executive committee member of Siam City Cement Lanka Private Limited. He is also a chartered environmentalist and currently possesses an MBA from the Australian Institute of Business Australia. He is also a council member of the Environmental Professionals in Sri Lanka and a chair to Industrial Relations Committee IEPCL and a corporate life member of SLIM. So please join hands with us as we invite Sanjeev to actually go through his presentation with us today. With that, over to you, Sanjeev.
Thank you very much. Hope I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Iboan, good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity given to talk to on COP 26. And I'm trying to give you some aspect in terms of waste management, and I'm sure that we can find link to the climate change. Okay, moving on. What I'm trying to say is some of the practical aspects in terms of waste management that we do in Sri Lanka. Before going to that, maybe my other speakers will find useful as well. If you talk about the general trends in waste management, as everyone knows, it's an increasing problem as well as it's going to be worsened in future. And also we can see many futuristic environmental laws such as EPR, PP, PAT, life cycle assessment thinking is coming in. I think it's a good move. And also trend towards moving up in waste management hierarchy. So I'll talk later in waste management hierarchy very quickly. And it's moving up. The resource nature is coming up with waste. And also this part of the world, especially in Sri Lankan, maybe despite legislation, enforcement level is still generally low. And also we can see the commoditization of waste, especially the carbon-bearing waste stream among waste to energy. Maybe cement kiln is getting uh, high, and also most of the companies are disengaging waste dumping. They are looking integrated waste solid management as well as hazardous waste in and medical waste, etc. However, the waste management is going to be most demanding utility services as far as I understand. Okay, moving on, this circular economy concept is the way forward. Like, why we get waste? Because of we get raw material, put into energy, and do lot many economic activities to produce product and services where you get the waste. That's how waste is being generated. According to ISWA, 3.8 billion tons of waste generated in 2019. So why this waste? This is because of linear economic model. So we take, make, dispose natural resources, and then you get waste, and you use lot many finite resources. Your technical, biological materials are mixed up. So circular economy concept. Why I'm trying to give it to you, because our business is purely based on this circular economy concept, where you get your biological and technical materials separately. So you enrich biological material while your technical material return back to your system, where we can use more and more renewable energy sources. So I'm not going to talk much on the circular economy, linear economy, but this is going to be the base. So taking that into account, we looked at, if we can look at the Sri Lankan context, we can see a bit of ecological misbehavior. There are so many, but waste disposal being identified as one of the challenge in waste management, challenge in Sri Lanka in terms of ecological misbehavior, where you can see lot many resource extraction, disposal of waste, discharge to environment, and emissions are the key concern, key contribution factors. And also, I will try to bring more example. Like, we had a dump yard collapse in the capital city, and 30 people died. This is the result of linear economic models. Like, even in the capital city, middle of the capital city, and unfortunately 30 died. Like, so we need a solution. It's evident that waste is a problem in Sri Lanka. And also, if you can really see this picture, this is again in Colombo, and we can see the Caribbean, very beautiful environmental. But so you can really can see the waste mountains is being piled up. And also, we are mostly into hazardous waste, industrial waste. We still can see this is most dangerous. The industrial waste also being dumped sometimes here and there. We can find in Sri Lanka. Okay, by taking into that, given the time series, I cannot take much time. But what we do business in circular economy space. We are catering into Sri Lankan market, but we are a regional company, Thai-based company. We are operating in Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and Sri Lanka. And in Sri Lanka, we have been doing this our services to this country, these industries and local council, etc., for the last 18 years. And we have eliminated about more than 1 million industrial waste from this beautiful island. So basically, the waste management hierarchy is the one of the key factor. It's any waste management company, if any waste management technology. So what we do is the co-processing, cement kiln co-processing. We use cement kiln to dispose waste. I'll explain why the next slide. So basically, the co-processing is a technology where you can recover mineral and energy from waste. And also, it's an circular economy based technology where you can recover. When you really go to this waste management hierarchy, so desirability goes high in up, reduce, recycle, and then coming the recoveries, and incineration, landfilling, and unmanaged dumping and burning is coming later. So basically, what we are focusing is to have co-processing as a recovery method, cement kiln co-processing. Basically, the cement kiln co-processing is a proven technology in the world. And in Sri Lanka, INSEE Cement Putlam plant only can do this, because we are the only one is having cement kiln, but when you go to other part of the world, it's very famous technology where you get flame temperature around 1800 to 2000. In general terms, this is the one third of sun's surface temperature, where we can also get 4 to 6 second resident time. We can eliminate and the waste into and its basic elements, and there will not be any organic residues, and we control emission. So this is our technology, and also it's a journey that we have come across. Like we have started long time ago, where there is no as such waste management in the country. We started from the layman 2000. So we are proudly, we can say that today our thermal energy, 40%, 2019, is being supplied from waste, which is an hassle in Sri Lanka. So where we can save foreign cash, and also we can save the coal for future generation. And also, maybe very quickly, so we have given our solutions to obsolete chemical. We have observed so many chemicals yards in Sri Lanka. So basically we started all institution and all universities, they had lot many abundant chemicals, so we dispose all the chemicals through cement kiln co-processing. Finally, okay, we wanted to not only cement kilns, but also we wanted to have resource recovery. So we have set our resource recovery center, especially targeting SDG 12 responsible consumption and production, where we are targeting here the post-consumer waste, where we are trying to push the post-consumer waste towards waste management hierarchy. We are trying to improve the recycling options. And also another example I would like to bring. So we have in Putlam next to us is Norochole. They use coal. They get fly ash. Now what we have done is we have our resource and innovation center. So we link this fly ash and into cement, and we have excellent product to for a vigorous condition. My point is, this is real example that we brought through our innovations to showcase industrial symbiosis. So with that, maybe we can ask. We can ask more questions. But what I am trying to what I was trying to told you is that how we do waste management, our technology, and our how we have evolved, etc. So thank you very much.
Sanjeeva, for that. I think there was a point in which you went missing, but hopefully we can address it during the questions. So with that, I will like to now invite Chintaka. So Chintaka is, as I said before, he he is the CEO of Sicily Hanara India. He's qualified with a BSc in Electrical Engineering Technology from Farley Dickinson University, USA. He possesses specialized experience in engineering, sustainability, and healthcare. The rising industrial issues in the country and the necessity for solutions has driven him to meticulously plan, strategize, and execute many successful operational ventures under Sicily Projects Consortium. These include the management of hazardous clinical waste management, which he's going to speak about today, green laundry services, as well as non-invasive medical therapy. So with that, I believe Chintaka is also here. Just bringing him on screen now. Chintaka, you all okay?
Yeah, let me just share my screen right now. Okay, Safra, can you see my screen?
Yes, it's just loading and now we can hear it. So I will let you take the stage. With that, here is Chintaka Abesekar.
Thank you, Safra. Sanjeewa really started well on covering the progression of waste management in Sri Lanka. So obviously I'm not going to touch on that, but what I'm going to say is a little bit about our company. So what we do is, while companies like Aitken Spence, who's going to talk later, INSEE, they're very well established in Sri Lanka in terms of offering these type of waste management solutions, promoting the circular model, which is the way to go forward. But at the same time, when India came into this picture, what we noticed was that there was a gap in small to medium scale solutions. So actually we started off like this. There was nothing spectacular to write home about. We started to address the specific concern of clinical waste management in Colombo. And what happened in 2014, upon our incorporation, we realized, okay, while we see all these big solutions that are being implemented in many other countries, how do we localize it? How do we meet not just our operational standards, but our environmental standards, and most importantly, our ability to afford? So what we did, and I'm very proud about this, is we focused actually on engineering. And what we did was we took mappings of what we see in the developed world, such as Europe, Japan, and we tried to incorporate that into Sri Lanka. And this is actually our facility in Kerawalapitia. And we are actually very proud to tell you that this is Sri Lankan designed, Sri Lankan fabricated, and Sri Lankan commissioned and run. And as a result, what we have been able to do is actually produce a mid-sized solution that not just meets the EU and not just meets the Sri Lankan standards of the Central Environmental Authority, but those standards of the EU and the US EPA as well. And how we did it? We did it ground up. We basically had our own workshops. We started by integrated automated waste feeding technologies. We started obviously by going with automation, which is key, high temperature incineration. And this is where I think we really made a niche for ourselves, where we were able to de-size large flue gas treatment systems and match it to our mid-size requirements. So this one line treats about 15 to 20 metric tons of clinical waste a day. And the interesting part is, now that we have scaled this technology, we are ready to replicate. So the goal in what we are trying to do is actually to see, like Sanjeewa said, how can we add value back? So right now, in a second phase of our engineering is actually trying to combine the waste energy that we have, the waste heat that we have, the ash that we come up with. How can we make this waste output into something that we can use as an input in some other process? If we can do that, then like Sanjeewa said, we move another step closer towards a circular economy. So obviously, just the engineering is not enough. We have to provide a comprehensive service, and we do that with our entire end-to-end solution. For example, we have automated trolleys that are carried in these automated trucks, and these trolleys actually get fed into the machine without the waste pickers having to handle it. You just have to feed the trolley. So the whole game plan is, how do we reduce contamination of the people that work for us? So even the operators, we are trying to keep them in the control room as opposed to them being right next to the machine. So these type of standards, at first when we were trying to do this, everybody was like, no, those are only things that we see in Germany, Japan, it's too expensive, we can't afford it in Sri Lanka. But we have done, and we have proven it. And I think that is something that we Sri Lankans as a whole can really be proud of, because this was something that we did ground up here. So we are pretty much present, Western, Central, Southern mostly, but we also travel to the rest of the country to take problematic waste in clinical waste. There are different degrees, like for example, cytotoxic waste that handles cancerous waste. So we pretty much travel the whole country to collect these types of waste. And obviously we, how can I say it? The workers, not me, not the management. I have the luxury to sit here on a chair and talk to you in a webinar, but actually the employees of our company, I would like to call them the silent heroes. They were pretty much working 24/7, handling the peak of COVID, the Delta variant, over the last 3 months. And we even went as far as issuing a certificate of clinical waste destruction to ensure that these standards were met even during these critical times. So what we see, especially with INSEE, MCARE, and even with Aid and Spence, Janitha will be talking about that, is that the Sri Lankan waste management sector is now slowly but surely coming up to what you can expect from another country that we always compare ourselves to. And this is a progress that has happened, I would say, for the last 10 to 15 years. There is no one singular moment that we can focus on. It has been a step-by-step development. And I think if we maintain the track that we are going in right now, we will also come to a solution as the country evolves. And with that, I thank you, and that's my brief presentation for today.
Thank you so much, Chintaka, for that, and giving us a lot of insight into how NCARE works. With that, we will be moving on to our final speaker, but this is not the end of the session for sure. He is qualified with a BSc Engineering First Class Honours in Mechanical Engineering with University of Moratuwa. He is a Chartered Engineer from IESL and has an Executive Master of Business Administration, EMBA, from Open University of Sri Lanka. Janitha Ekanayake possesses more than 17 years of diversified and unparalleled experience in medium and large-scale power and energy projects. He is currently the General Manager of Western Power Company, a subsidiary of Aid and Spence PLC, the entity that pioneered the waste-to-energy sector in Sri Lanka. It provides an enduring solution for safe disposal of municipal solid waste, preventing further pollution of precious environments, lands, and water bodies, and thereby creating clean cities and better hygienic conditions. So with that, we will bring in Janitha Ekanayake with us on our session. Janitha, I hope you're feeling well.
Yes.
And I'm
Thank
glad
you.
that you took this time to be here today with us.
Thank you,
I
Safra.
I believe you have a presentation as well, which I'm just sharing now.
Yes, let me share my presentation. Can you see the presentation now?
Just waiting for it. Hold on a second. It's not showing. I'm going to remove it. Can you try resharing now? Then it should be fine. So this concept of waste to energy is a brand new plant that just came on during the COVID times as well. It's definitely an interesting project for you to look at. Just waiting on his presentation. If you have any questions at any point during the session, please put it in the questions, put it in the comments, and we will definitely answer it at some point during today's.
Sapa, can you see the slide now?
Nope, not yet.
Now it should be okay.
Don't see it as yet.
Okay.
No.
Okay, let me stop sharing and try it again.
Yes, please. Yes, now it's fine. Yes, I can see it. So if you can just put it on PowerPoint mode. Perfect.
Okay.
So with that, I will take your leave. Janitha, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Safra. Good evening to all of you. So Sanjeev and Janitha talked about waste management and the related issues in a holistic manner, also with special attention to their specific areas. Now, in my presentation, I will briefly take you through our uh, specialized area where municipal waste is used to produce electricity. So this is the first ever waste to energy project in Sri Lanka, recently commissioned couple of months ago. So first I will take you through a brief video to give you brief understanding on our process.
Sri Lanka, a resplendent isle rich in natural beauty. From crystal clear oceans and unspoiled beaches to lush forests and majestic mountaintops, our land. But every day, we put our beautiful island in jeopardy. Sri Lanka generates 7,000 metric tons of solid waste on a daily basis, 60% of which is produced by the Western Province. Our current disposal practices are the cause of immeasurable damage to the environment, polluting air, soil, and water. And if we don't stop now, the effects of what we do today will be felt for generations to come. The good news is that when managed correctly, solid waste can be a valuable resource and a vital cog in a system that can deliver a variety of social and economic benefits. It was this insight, along with the desire to preserve and protect our island, that inspired one of Sri Lanka's most respected conglomerates to enter the waste to energy arena. Aiken Spence is a pioneer in multiple industries and a leader in sustainable value creation. With the goal of providing Sri Lanka with a safe, eco-friendly waste management solution, Aiken Spence Power contracted with a renowned engineering company, China Western Power Company, and began construction of the country's first and only professional waste-to-energy plant, investing close to 15 billion rupees in the endeavor. The 10 megawatt power plant was ceremonially opened on the 17th of February 2021 by the Honorable Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. The Colombo Waste to Energy Power Plant is a state-of-the-art waste management facility providing an end-to-end solution to the problem of solid waste disposal in Colombo, with a processing capacity of 700 metric tons per day. The process begins when the municipal solid waste trucks arrive at our premises and are directed to our fully automated weigh bridges. The trucks are weighed both before and after the dumping process, and the relevant data is meticulously recorded. The waste is then tipped into the waste bunker and stored there for 3 to 7 days to allow for leachate drainage. Our grippers turn over the waste repeatedly to ensure even scatter and mixing. The waste is then transported to the incinerator via our feeder system. After being dried rapidly under high temperatures, it enters the incinerator where combustion begins at 850 degrees Celsius, ensuring that the waste is completely incinerated. The thermal energy generated heats the water in our boilers, and the steam that is created powers the steam turbine generator to produce electricity. In this way, the power plant contributes 10 megawatts of power to the national grid, which helps the CEP power households and businesses around the country with sustainable energy. Leachate from solid waste is one of the main polluters of groundwater around the world. At our power plant, the leachate collected is put through a rigorous 4-step treatment process that results in Class A water suitable for daily use. This water goes directly back into our processing system for use within the plant. Any additional water required is obtained from the Hamilton Canal and goes through our stringent in-house purification process prior to use. In the final stages of secondary combustion and processing, we are left with 2 types of ash. Bottom ash is collected and delivered to the construction industry to be repurposed for the making of bricks and paving stones. Our fly ash is treated at every stage and routinely tested to ensure that any emission is completely harmless and complies with Central Environmental Authority and EU standards and regulations. Protecting our environment is a collective responsibility. As a responsible corporate citizen, we want to contribute positively to sustainable urbanization by reducing the adverse environmental impacts of waste. At Aiken Spence Power, our efforts are to enable and empower sustainable cities and communities by providing state-of-the-art, reliable, and resilient infrastructure. We are committed to providing an effective, efficient, and completely eco-friendly solution that will keep Colombo clean and beautiful, while generating sustainable energy that empowers homes and businesses. Aiken Spence, for a clean and green city of Colombo.
So that is how Aiken Spence came up with the innovative solution. For developed countries, it is not a new technology, but for Sri Lanka, this is the first ever waste to energy power plant to exist in Sri Lanka, giving an enduring solution for municipal solid waste management. So, as you are aware, municipal solid waste management had been a burning issue, and in 2017, more than 30 people got killed due to Mitharamulla calamity. So, Now that is how we came up with a new solution. Now these are the key facts about 10 megawatt Colombo waste to energy power plant. The owner, Western Power Company Private Limited, a majority-owned subsidiary of Ekanayake PLC, and the engineering, procurement, and construction contractor was China Western Power Industrial Company Limited in China, one of the experienced company, construction company for waste to energy power plants. Then the owner's engineer, Rambo Lange, Switzerland, another renowned consultant company. And the O&M contractor, now initially for a couple of years until the local people are getting trained. So this O&M will be carried out by another experienced contractor, Evergreen New Energy Company Limited, Hong Kong. And our partners, waste collection, transport and supply, will be done by Colombo Municipal Council, for which we have a long-term agreement. And the power purchaser, the power electricity produced by the power plant will be purchased by Ceylon Electricity Board. For this also we have a long-term agreement. And the construction period of the project, it was just 2.5 years. So amidst numerous unprecedented calamities occurred in past 2 years, like Easter Sunday attack, the COVID pandemic, we managed to complete the project just within 2.5 years. And we achieved commercial operation of the plant in last year, 11 December 2020, achieving a remarkable target. Then, what are the key benefits, social and environmental benefits? So, the direct employments through the project during peak construction time, it was around 500, and at present during the operation, it's around 100. And the amount of municipal solid waste processed in a year amounts to 2,000, more than 200,000 tons. So this is equal to the waste amount produced by 1.4 million people. So this gives a solution to avoid pollution of lands, water bodies, and the emission of methane caused by open dumping of degradable waste, and thereby preserves valuable lands and create clean cities and improved hygienic conditions. The green energy produced annually is 80 million units. This is equivalent to consumption of 95,000 households. So this by this we prevent combustion of fossil fuels. And the estimated amount of greenhouse gas reduction is 150,000 tons CO2 equivalent per year. And as a byproduct, the bottom ash, which can be used as substitute for sand, the annual production is around 30,000 tons. So this is the aerial view of the power plant, completed power plant. So that is that is what we are doing currently in brief. So then I would like to thank British Council for giving us this opportunity to present our case in this timely webinar. Thank you.
With that, we are closing all the presentations by all the speakers. So I'm just bringing all four of them back into the room. Thank you, fine gentlemen who are working on a very not as fine issue here today. So we have a lot of questions that people have sent in earlier, and they would really like your answers as to how waste management works. There are, as you know, throughout the session, you can always add in more questions that you have, and we would love to answer as many as we can throughout the session today. So we heard a phrase called circular economy. and resource recovery. There are so many things like these phrases that are pushed around in the waste management circles, but not many people really understand what does that mean. How do you incorporate these aspects in each of your different plants for very different waste types? How do you do it? Can we start with Sanjeeva, and then we can move to
Yeah,
Janitha, and then Janitha? Yeah.
sure. I think I'm sorry that part of my presentation was missing. I was speaking about this linear economy versus the circular economy model. Basically, the linear economy model is you just take the natural resources, then make use and then make it waste, and waste is a problem for us. So basically, if you really want to have a circular economy concept in terms of waste management, I think the first and foremost thing is to use your technology as such. When it comes to cement kiln co-processing, which is world accepted technology, where what we are trying to do is we are trying to recover energy from this waste or mineral from this waste. As an example, okay, textile industry, we have so many garments, and each and every BOI zone is producing textile waste. So what we are trying to do is we have invested uh, on big shredders. We shred and we feed these material into kiln, where we can reduce the coal, so we can save the coal for future, as well as we can give solutions for waste in Sri Lanka. So it's and also the technology, so we recover energy from this waste. And also that's one example. Maybe another example, like this post consumer waste. Now we went into resource recoveries. We have our resource recovery center. So basically what we are trying to do is here, so you take all the recyclable waste and then divert to recyclers. So we are recycling company, small company, they get feedstock to their production. So that is some practical example. And also not only waste management, I explain you that we have another good example, like we call it industrial symbiosis. Norocholi power plants is producing fly ash, which is an environmental hazard. Basically, it's a so what we have innovated the product by combining this waste into our product portfolio. This product is extremely good, actually, for a vigorous environmental condition. So nowadays, what really waste management is looking is to have someone else waste is being taken as a resources into someone else ends production. That's what I really call circular economy aspect in waste management.
Thank you, Chulakumara. Now that we know what it means, Chintaka, I know that you do quite a few ways of incorporating this into your plant as well. What do you do?
In terms of?
Bringing in the circular economy aspect of waste management.
Right. So basically, our focus is on the waste heat. What we are trying to do is we're getting a lot of waste heat out of our processes on a daily basis. So we are trying to actually reach out to private sector companies to see how we can repurpose this waste heat into an input form into their, it can be something as simple as a plastic molding or injection molding, for example, right? Or whether we can combine that into another technology, for example, like pyrolysis, to see whether we can get some value-added derivative out of that. So what is interesting is if we provide the front-end solution where we are providing this energy consistently for an X number of days, then from where we channel our output energy or the waste heat, can another company come in, connect to that source, and then use that for their input? And then what happens is with that handshake, it makes my operations cheaper, which if my operations are cheaper, my users will benefit, right? And then obviously I'm cutting costs on input energies, which as you know, everybody must have kept track of how LPG prices and everything are going up these days. So obviously for an industry, a reduction in their energy costs is something that they will come on. But what is interesting is unfortunately in Sri Lanka there is a mentality. Ara kunu factory ekat ekka sambandha wenna bෑ අපේ product එකට, it will be perceived in a negative way or something like that. So I think that is something that we have to overcome. And I think that is something INSEE has done very well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chintaka. Yeah. So thank you, Chintaka. Janitha, do you want to add anything above what the other two have said already?
Yes, now as my colleagues explained, so now waste to energy itself describes our process. Now the waste is converted into energy. Here the energy means the electricity.
Yeah.
Now the electricity is whatever the electricity produced in our power plant is exported to the national electricity grid. So it will be used by households, factories, companies. So it is connected to the national grid. So in our process, basically 700 tons of municipal solid waste is converted to the usable electricity and brings it back to the economy as a usable product or service. Not only that, now we have some byproducts. Now we are doing some R&D to find out the means how those can also be brought back into the society or as the economy to give them also an economic value. So this is what we are doing, and this is how we are contributing to the circular economy.
Nice. With that, of course, we are going through a very tumultuous time. Everything is uncertain. As Chintaka also said that considering he's handling medical waste, it's a huge issue during COVID as to when staff get sick and all of that. How have you, can we start with Chintaka? How have you been managing during this time? And how do you ensure that, because waste will not end just because there's a pandemic going on, it will probably increase in terms of waste. So how do you manage this situation?
Barely. No, it has been a very rough 3 months for us. We have, I think, since April, May was okay, but starting June, July, we've seen an exponential increase in the clinical waste that has been generated. People say, hey, that must be good for business. Actually, it's not, mainly because in terms of even staffing, for example, if you expect your staff to run at 1.5, we are running at 3.5. We've had to have internal quarantine centers. We've had to have separate operation teams, separate logistics teams. And like I told you in my presentation, they are the real heroes. They're not getting highlighted in any way. These are young boys from all over the Sri Lanka, and these guys are actually doing it. Obviously, remuneration is one thing for them, but they also, I think when you are working in a waste management company that has kind of streamlined how you've done it, they get a sense of pride. So there were a lot of workers that we said, hey, you worked for 1 month straight inside the facility, take off. These guys were like, nෑ කමක් නෑ සර් මං තව මාසයක් ඉන්නම්. මේ රටටම ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙන නිසා, right? So it's that mindset is the reason why we were able to survive the 3 months. But now I'm kind of digressing from your situation. Okay, we fire fought the situation, right? We fire fought the situation, and just as much as it spiked, it has come down now. But are we as a country any better in our emergency preparedness to handle the next wave? I think these type of forums are what we should talk and try to promote that from within the generators who might be logging into this webinar, as well as other key people like Mr. Sanjeewa and Janitha who carry strong voices in the industry. We must look at our emergency preparedness, because honestly, I don't think we are ready for another wave.
Agreed. Sanjeewa, do you want to add on to that? And
Yes, yes. And I would I fully agree with what Chintaka said. These are unsung heroes. When you really look at the numbers, those who are involved in the waste management sector in Sri Lanka, according to my statistics, it would be 50,000 people. Actually, they are doing a great service. Even in my presentation, I mentioned the waste management is and most demanded utility service nowadays. Huh? When it comes to my case, our case, INSI case, during the pandemic, the most of the export industries are working, still working, were working. So they need to have and proper solutions for so their industrial waste. Otherwise, they cannot, they can't store their industrial waste in house. So we face a lot many actually lot many hurdles, I would say. And also when it comes to our case, I need to cross another provinces. We are in Putlam. So there were so many issues. I think we got a lot many support from the government side as well in terms of the passes and etc. I must appreciate that as well. And also we had like so many COVID cases, and we have bio bubbles, and we had our own quarantine mechanism. Uh, I fully agree. It's an integral part of this entire value chain where we are supporting actually to create economic value. As Chintaka correctly said, if waste management is not happening properly, I think we will not be able to run our economy according to my experience, because I'm dealing much on these investment zones. Like they are very export oriented, 100% export oriented industries. So I think like during this pandemic, like we had so many issues, but unfortunately our systems, our people, thanks to our OHS management systems and our control, that helped. And also government supported us in terms of various things that make us a success story. But I fully agree that there should be a proper place for waste management professionals in Sri Lanka. Mostly, those guys are working on the field. You just go out and see there are people are working, right? Sometimes we have not seen the proper PPs. Sometimes they are, I think we need to uplift their livelihood. So I think it's also becoming a professional in Sri Lanka as well. Like in those days, we were just starting. We started my experience that 14 years ago. I started sometimes the waste management discussion with backyard operator. Now I used to go to the boardroom of my clients. Maybe I'm talking to their chairman, their CEO's level, because waste management has become such important thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Janitha, do you want to add on to that? And
Yes.
also, can we talk a little bit about costs? Like in terms of waste management, everyone doesn't know the real cost structures behind it. How do you manage with such a huge plant that you have? How do you manage in a time like this?
So, first of all, I fully agree with Chintaka and Sanjeev. So, there are many, silent heroes in this task. So, they are working throughout the days. As Sanjeev mentioned, sometimes they are not given with proper PP also. So, they are actually really the honorable professionals, what we should say. So, we should promptly recognize them, and their lifestyle should be uplifted. So unless of their, commitment and the dedication, uh, none of us, can't do our duty. And entire country will be in a disaster situation. So even the road sweepers, garbage collectors, the truck drivers, their service is invaluable. So even we at our power plant, we operated like a bio bubble. Most of the workers, reside in inside the plant throughout the last several months. So we knew that the impact that would happen if the plant is, shut down due to infection. So we are now currently we are catering not only the Colombo Municipal Council, the entire Western Province, with regard to safe disposal of municipal solid waste. So regarding the cost, so yes, now this project cost around 13 billion rupees, huge investment. So now how we are recovering? So here in this plant we have only one stream of revenue, that is through CB tariff, electricity sales. So whereas in worldwide, in other plants, there are two streams of revenues. One is one is through tipping fee. The polluters or the waste suppliers shall pay some component. I mean, they shall pay some amount of cost for, safe disposal of their waste. That means the polluter should pay. But here in our plant, that is not there. So that is why we have a slightly comparatively high tariff for the electricity. So, in my view, it should be structured. At least in future plants, there should be those both streams of revenue, the tipping fee and the CB tariff. So that is how we are recovering our cost only through CB payments, these electricity sales. That is also now, really challenging because of this. The rapid depreciation of LKR. So the tariff is denominated with LKR, but it is a flat tariff. But our O&M cost, the capital, all were, through expenses in USD. So it appreciated unbelievably. So there's a huge, it and the viability of the project has been, severely eroded. The Those are the challenges.
True. Yes,
I mean, no, Janitha touched on a this conversation just got very serious. Basically, that's what Janitha did, because I think it goes back to the base, the fundamental issue. I think that all of us, I think even Sanjeewa, you have had, is the authenticity of the data that is available. And now, for example, what Janitha's project, it's the first project in Sri Lanka, waste to energy. It cannot fail, because if it fails, what it does is internationally, you are basically saying, basically you will wipe out a second investment opportunity if required.
Yes.
And if you take a look at, I'm sure you had this issue as well, you were told, okay, you can get X amount of waste, and then when the project is operational, you don't have that waste. Reality. I went across that. I'm sure Sanjeewa, you might also have had some issues like that. So in reality, what's very interesting is, I think you read the news, you read the media, you read even people's comments on Facebook. Everybody's talking kunu devanta kunu prashnayak tiyena Lankawe. But when you dive into the problem, there really isn't. What happens is when your waste accumulates over some time and then it's time to hit the news, yes, it looks like a big problem. But once you have a solution that is streamlined and running, then the problem is not as big or serious as it is. And then what that creates is, it creates an unnecessary pressure on investors, such as the three people in this conversation, because all of a sudden you have done a business plan on data that is fundamentally wrong. And obviously, in the end, any of these, the reason why we are doing this on a commercial scale is to have financial viability. And if you don't have that on a long term, that's true for any project. It's not just waste management, right? Then you're not likely to get the second round of investment going in, which for the industry, it's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
it actually places really well with the question that we've got with the audience, which goes, what extent is the garbage in the current waste dumps in and around Colombo being taken and actually recycled or incinerated or looked after by your companies? So if you can give us an idea of how much you were expecting, and also how much you're actually getting, just so the audience can understand the actual data discrepancy in this case of what you can achieve. Janitha?
Yes, for now, actually, we were supposed to get around 700 to 800 tons per day. So the design basis is based on the 700 tons per day. If we get that amount of waste, then we can produce 10 megawatt of electricity. Then we can recover our investment. But in current context, now that amount of waste should have been delivered only by CMC. And we have the agreement with the CMC. Now at present, from CMC we are getting roughly around 400 tons per day. So that is a big challenge. So without having the sufficient amount of fuel in our plant, the fuel is waste.
Yeah.
So how can we produce 10 megawatt? So without producing the, design no, the desired amount of electricity, how can we recover the investment? So now anyway, the Waste Management Authority of Western Province, they intervened, they identified and they supported us. Now they are coordinating to deliver waste also from Colombo suburbs. So that's why I told now we are catering the entire Western Province, not only the CMC. Even with that amount of waste, still we are not having the enough quantity of waste. So
Can I ask you a question, Janitha?
yes,
Uh, Now, before the plant came, everybody was saying we have 1,500 metric tons in Western Province, blah, blah, blah. Those were the numbers that were put out, right?
mm.
Do you think this was always the actual generation, or do you think there has been a drop because of COVID?
No. Anyway, this the 1,800 that amount, I think it is an inflated figure. But obviously, due to the lockdowns, there is significant reduction of waste because of this less migrated crowd to Colombo.
Mm.
So I think during lockdowns time, it was only about 300 tons per day. So we observe now with the opening of the recent uh, relaxation of lockdowns, we observe there is a slight increment in the waste delivery by CMC. So that is what I am telling now. Currently, we are getting about 400 tons per day. So whereas they are obligated to deliver minimum
Yeah.
600 tons per day. So our requirement is around 700 tons per day. So anyway, now Waste Management Authority, the Western Province, they also intervened in this process and they are delivering some additional waste from Colombo suburbs as well. So it resolved our problem to certain extent, but still we are not coming out of the woods. So still we are struggling to get the required amount of waste. So without having that quantity, we can't produce 10 megawatt of electricity. Without that, we can't get the desired amount of revenue. So as Chintaka highlighted, so the reliable and accurate data is very much important in taking policy decisions and to mobilize the investment, particularly investment of this magnitude,
Yeah.
highly capital intensive. So finally, this is public money, so it has to survive. Um,
Maybe I
therefore,
would also like to, sorry, Janitha, go ahead.
no, therefore, I want to tell is that accuracy and the reliability of data is very much important.
I
Sanjeewa?
think fully agree with that. Let me also tell my story. Maybe we are mostly into, they call it industrial waste. This comes in a scheduled waste or hazardous waste. When it comes to this hazardous waste platform in Sri Lanka, Chintaka handle medical waste, but majority of other hazardous waste are being handled by INSI at the moment through cement kiln co-processing. And we get so many demand from the market, but we cannot at the moment. Sometimes we say no. The reason being, so we are dependent on the cement kiln. We cannot put anything and everything because we are dependent on other process. And also in terms of statistics, this is our statistics. We handle about maybe we estimate that the total scheduled waste in Sri Lanka is around 300,000 tons per annum. So we handle about maybe maximum 25%. And there is a requirement, and actually we have gone to the level of max. We have invested a lot into Sri Lanka, and also maybe my proposal, like there should be some other solutions for industrial waste in Sri Lanka as well, because we cannot handle everything. And also when it comes to again the same problem, if somebody is coming to have a solutions for industrial waste, this is a huge investment. The market, the volume has to be 100% spot on. Otherwise, this investment will become, and like you can't make money out of that, or you can't survive. So basically 2 points. Yes, the way statistics has to be really firm, as well as I would like to also bring another point, like, yes, Sri Lanka, but I personally is telling is that, like, there is a waste issue in the country. I have been this for the last one and a half decades. So we have to have a healthy competition, like, okay, waste to energy, Chintak is handling medical waste, INSI is handling industrial waste, and there are so many recycling companies coming up. I think there should be very good harmonized system, not to fight each other. Our sole objective is to, find a solution for Sri Lanka, because waste is an unsolved issue. Janitha also mentioned, maybe in my presentation I spoke about, like, even like we had a catastrophic in the main city, mid of the city, like 35 people died. So which is an alarming thing, like so. And when it comes to hazardous waste, it's worse because you can't see that as well. So we have to be very careful. My point is, okay, there should be very good state of the art technologies should come to handle industrial waste in Sri Lanka, for sure, where the statistics is going to play a major role.
Thank you, Sanjeev. With that, we also have a question from the audience for you, which is, do you handle fabric waste? Do you have any, does that fall under industrial waste? Or is there an approach for that separately?
We handle the fabric waste from all the BOI zone, but here I think what I understood is the fabric recycling. I think now the all big companies, like big brands, are moving towards. They have set their own recycling strategies by 2030, 2050. There are mechanism to recycle the fabric. There is maybe one or two companies here as well, and INSI is looking fabric recycling in other countries. We have started some project in Cambodia, and that will also we are trying to have another project in Vietnam, maybe, because they are the largest textile producers, big brands. Here there is no big volume, but at the moment what we do is we dispose this waste, which is not hazardous waste, which is a non-hazardous solid waste. We dispose via our shredders and cement kiln.
Great. Chitaka, do you want to weigh in on your numbers?
Numbers with regards to?
Clinical waste management. How are you what were you supposed to get? What are you getting? And how do you work around it?
Okay, so the numbers are always linked to standards. If I cannot, for example, we cannot compare Janitha's Aitken Spence international standard facility with a village side Trommel Seaver kind of composting facility. If you don't compare apples to apples, there's always going to be a mismatch. So so in order to, if you have a particular standard, so now, for example, if it comes to even all types of waste management that we're discussing in this panel, the most important part is obviously the efficiency of your process, right? What do you do with the residuals that you have? And then finally, obviously, how do you tackle the shift, the shift in the burden of pollution? So, for example, if you take a look at all three of us, because co-processing, incineration, obviously, when the solid gets burned, there is gas given out. So for us, the shift of burden is the air emissions, right? So then when you establish or stipulate certain standards to be set with that, there comes a cost with that, right? And you have to pay that. That's a given. The issue in Sri Lanka that I feel is what happens is, because there is no uniform, I think we have the frameworks. Would you agree, Sanjay, Janitha? I think the regulation, the policy, everything is there. But when it comes to implementation of it, there are inconsistencies at different levels. So at the ministry levels or the provincial levels or even down at the Grama Sevaka, like the provincial council levels. So as a result, you are always being compared with apples to oranges. So if I get compared with somebody who is burning the waste in a hole in some far off place, I'm never going to be able to meet those costs. And that is where, again, this ties back to what we were talking about before. How do you create a policy for the investor where you know that every 5 years, that focus will not change? Like right now, we are just talking about the current depreciation and all that about now, but it's also about the future changes, right? So if that consistency can be maintained from a implementation of the existing laws, guidelines, which I think are actually far beyond that what we need in this country. Like are the laws that we have in this country is really impressive. We just need consistent implementation with one rule for all. And if that happens, your question of cost and viability will work itself out by itself.
So, as far as I have understood, the National Clinical Waste Management Policy drafted in 2001 is still not approved. So, you talked about policy right now. How does that affect how you run things when the policy is not yet implemented?
I mean, I answered the question before. That's exactly the difficulty, right? So obviously, when we spec the plants, it's not like we come and say, "Oh, I'm going to have this fancy system, that thing, this thing." They are actually told by the government authorities, "You need to have this in place. You need to have that as a mitigation for this." So this whole process of finalizing the design took me about, I would say, 18 months. I'm sure, Janitha, it took longer for you. Sanjeewa, your plants are bigger, more complicated, so definitely must have been longer for you, right? So when these solutions then come into play, and if there is another person who wants to enter the marketplace, then that person has to be held to the same standards. That person cannot be given something higher or lower. And that is exactly what I said. You raised a very valid point with the policy not being approved still. So actually, that policy is more about how do you handle the waste as opposed to specific incineration related or disposal specifics, right? But the same applies to even the disposal part. So if you can create that uniform platform, like it's a very uniform playing ground for everybody, everybody has a level playing field. But according to the same technologies, same standards, and same requirements.
Agreed. So that's a very interesting part, and we also have another question from the audience as well. So this is more directed to Janitha. So this is interesting because we discussed this when we put the speakers together in terms of, and this conversation about Mito Mulla has been repeated so many times in this conversation alone. Why can't you take that waste? Why can't you take Mito Mulla, put it through your WTE when you have the capacity and solve that problem? What is stopping you from doing that?
So now, currently, we are clearing one of the huge mountain in Muthurajavela. So, in case of Meetotamulla, we can't accept the waste as it is without kind of pre-processing or pre-treatment, because it is mixed with soil and debris. Most of the things have composted, so which has become inert. For our process, we need to have a kind of it is called the calorific value. There should be some energy content in that the waste, which is used as the fuel in our plant. So that is why there is a one mountain currently being cleared by us at Muthurajavela. So we are clearing, for about 160, 108 tons per day from that mountain. So where it has only, residual waste, mainly the polythene plastics, not mixed and not covered with earth and soil. So that type of mountain, so that the garbage dumps can be cleared, but others mixed with soil and the other hazardous and debris, we cannot accept as it is without having a pre-treatment.
I see. So that answers Nelon's question of why haven't the garbage dumps disappeared already, considering this.
And Safra, you need to understand that the cost of doing the pre-treatment is quite significant. And that goes back to what Sanjeewa is saying. How do you create a value chain?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only way long term. How do we create a value chain where we get the feedstock, we do the pre-treatment? When I say we, I mean these third-party suppliers who can then go give it to Janitha and say, here's the livestock for your plant.
Yes.
Now, I agree with Chinta. Now, in evaluating the projects of this nature, the waste to energy and the co-processing, those should be, taken into consideration. All those cost of externalities. That means, what if this plant is not available? What will be the cost to the society, economy? What is the cost of clearing the dump? What is the cost of, the health impacts, the degraded environment? So all those cost of externalities, should be taken into consideration in evaluating these type of projects.
Yeah, because land is the limiting factor in Sri Lanka, right? Being a small island.
Yeah. And with that, Sanjeeva, I would like to ask you a question of now that you've created a solution for industrial waste, and it's kind of worked, and you've kind of created the model for it. What do you see for the future in terms of your plan?
Good question. Maybe in terms of Sri Lankan, because in waste management concept, I really like to see that the government is putting so many good futuristic environmental laws coming in, like EPR, which is extremely good one. And also, now we have very good waste management companies are coming in, like waste to energy, co-processing, clinical waste, recycling, etc. So when it comes to our case, we consider we are a multinational company and we want to support the society. And also when it comes to waste management, we know exactly that there are many problems. So we went into details of how we can evolve more solutions for Sri Lankan market. And we found that the recycling is not so regulated. So we wanted to support this recycling industry. So where we went to resource recoveries. Resource recoveries are two types. We don't want to put everything to cement kiln. If anything can be recycled, that's the best way. So we have our setup 2019, our resource recovery center, to tackle mainly the FMCG industries. They have two types of waste: post-consumer waste as well as their in-situ waste. So basically, this facility is supporting in many ways. Like it will reduce the post-consumer waste. We can divert it to recyclers. And also recyclers, the biggest problem in here in the country, the cost of feedstocks. So we actually backhaul. We have many trucks going across the island. So we backhaul and we are trying to bring them this material at lower cost. Then the production cost really will go down. And also that is in this year we invested in pyrolysis. Basically, the pyrolysis is the process where we can treat rubber waste, the plastic waste to get oil. Like it's basically an upcycle mechanism. And also INSEE went into another sort of a support for all industries. Like we have so many environmental services requirement. Like as an example, if in case sudden fire, so chemical spillage, etc. So we have our environmental services set up to support that as well. And also one of the most important thing when it comes to waste profile in Sri Lanka, we don't have good, I would say, the analytical results. So we have set up our laboratories to test waste profiles to understand better how much the heavy metal content, etc. And also now there is a good trend, like one of the waste management techniques we consider the composting. So there is an opportunity. I'm not going to talk about composting matter, but there is an opportunity for composting in the country. So that also will help. So we are looking to have our own composting mechanism as well. So what we are really trying to help is that to have a total integrated solutions in many ways. And also meantime, we want to work with all, like we want to work with Janitha, we want to work with Chintaka, and we are supporting recyclers, we are supporting other small scale the recycling companies. What really in nutshell, we want to bring this circularities in waste value chain. That's where INSEE is focusing at the moment.
Great. Chintaka, your plant is very homegrown. It's evolved according to the needs of the country. You started off very small, and then you gradually increased. It's basically built with blood, sweat, and tears. How do you see NCare growing in the future?
So, like I mentioned in the presentation, when we entered the space, we realized that either you have very small fundamental solutions that really don't meet the daily requirements or the standards of the country. Then obviously you have the large scale solutions of INSEE and Aitken Spence. So what we noticed was there was a big gap in the mid-sized sector. And then later, obviously, through various interactions, we actually saw this same mid-sized gap in countries like India, Bangladesh, Africa, etc. So then the question, because a lot of these solutions, like these advanced flue gas treatment systems, they're spec'd out for large plants. So then the question was, how could we engineer this to make it commercially viable at our scale, which is the mid-scale section? That is what we were able to do over the last 4 to 5 years, and we're still in the process of perfecting that. But in answer to your question, my vision is to be able to export this to those target countries in Asia, Africa, even Middle East, certain countries. And if we can do that, then that is value addition. You can say made in Sri Lanka, value addition. And what we're trying to do is combine, because after talking with peers in other countries, a lot of these solutions, for example, if you do a build own transfer kind of model for a large scale plant, you will get the experts of those countries to help you run the plant for a longer period of time. So there's a knowledge transfer. But a lot of these small to medium scale plants do not have that. You buy it, they will set it up and they'll go. So we are trying to combine our solutions with actually operational partnership models to show that, okay, Sri Lanka can manufacture this. Sri Lanka can manufacture a machine that lasts a specified period of time. And that we can provide that expertise for them to do so. So if I can achieve that in the next 5 years, then I would say part of my vision has been achieved.
Yeah, I think a lot of Sri Lankans forget that we have a lot of technical expertise. We have a lot of on the ground implementation and all of that that can be used in other countries as well. And we shouldn't underestimate the power of made in Sri Lanka. If we can do things like the London Stock Exchange software, then I'm sure we can do things which are out of the box. And I hope that people who are watching really do consider the power of a Sri Lankan product. Janitha, what is your just as before we close up, because I know I've kept you longer than I previously asked you. So, Janitha, what is your future with waste to energy? How do you see the next few years going?
Yes, now as explained by Chintaka and Sanjeewa, so we are not competing with each other. So we are a kind of integrated solution providers. So the waste management should be a integrated solution. There should be a solution to treat clinical waste. There should be, I mean, solution to treat industrial and hazardous waste. there should be different solution to treat municipal solid waste. The municipal solid waste also can be segregated. So biodegradable content can be, more economically treated if we can go ahead with the anaerobic digestion or aerobic composting rather than going for incineration. So basically, we are targeting towards residual waste, real residual waste, which cannot be reused, which cannot be recycled. So whatever the leftover material, the plastic, polythene, if you observe our waste bunker, you would observe that we are really possessing the residual waste. So now, in terms of expansion, now with regard to technical know-how and the expertise we gain through this project. So even though this is not new to the, other developed countries, this is the very first plant in Sri Lanka. But from the beginning, from the zero level, so our engineers work with those expertise, foreign expertise. So the technical know-how transferred to that process is, invaluable. So definitely, in the case of another development of a similar project, so we have, the better chance, better capability to contribute with the, required knowledge and know-how locally to engineer, procure, and construct a plant, maybe with, minor backing from another consultant, foreign consultant. So that is a huge, advantage we gain through this project, the knowledge transfer. Other than that, the municipal solid waste treatment. Now we are also focusing about the e-waste treatment. So it also has become a kind of a pressing issue in Sri Lanka. So there are many, waste, the current electronic waste being handled. There are so many ways, but nothing is up to the standard. Nothing is up to the requirement. So we are focusing on that area as well to, expand our operations. So other than that, in our plant, the present plant also, we are trying to add values to, byproducts, the bottom mash and the fly ash. Currently, we are doing R&D, how those can be used in the construction industry. In foreign countries, those are being used, as for many construction activities. So our waste is quite different to other countries. When it compared to the European countries, the moisture content and the biodegradable content in our waste is very much high. So therefore, the characteristics are different. So therefore, we have to do the R&D from, the scratch level. So that is what we are doing currently. So those are the lines of our, intended expansion in future.
Thank you so much, Janitha, Sanjeeva, as well as Chintaka, for spending 1.5 hours with us to give our audience a very in depth. We feel like it's in depth, but I will tell you that I have a whole 3 A4 page questionnaire left for them. So hopefully, someday soon, we can actually hear them speak again to kind of answer every single thing we have in mind. But till then, please know that climate change won't end this November. COP26 may be happening, but climate change is not going to end anytime soon. But we do hope this series of events and programs will have a sustainable legacy to build on the momentum of the year's work and the networks we have built. In the lead up to COP26, the British Council Sri Lanka undertook a research study on climate vulnerability with the objective of developing a deeper understanding of the perceptions, attitudes, challenges, and readiness of over 1,000 youth nationwide. Please watch out for our website tomorrow because then you can register to attend the Youth in Climate Action virtual conference, which is on 28th and 29th October. It's 3 hours per day, so you can definitely come in and understand what youth want in terms of climate change. It will contribute to the dialogue and conversations that would lead to recommendations and ideas for the future. Celebrate the success of youth leaders addressing the impacts of climate change and scrutinize and explore research evidence on how young people can effectively contribute to climate action priorities set out by the government of Sri Lanka as well as the United Kingdom, and of course, the recommendations from COP26. Please do check in on all our programs that are happening. As you all know, if you go to www.britishcouncil.lk, you will find out everything you need to know about all the programs that we have aligned till March 2022. So thank you again to Janitha, Sanjeewa, and Chintaka. We wish them luck with everything that they're doing in terms of solving this huge crisis of waste management. Hopefully, they'll get their numbers and their data and have their analytics, and hopefully, us as people of Sri Lanka can push the message of pushing for policy, pushing for data, and pushing for a change so that an incident like Mitoramula doesn't happen again. So, with that, I hope you have a great evening and a very fruitful one. And please know this video will remain on Facebook, so you can watch it on any time as well as on YouTube. So, feel free to please ask us any questions that you have. And also know that our next session is on Thursday. We have Sarinder, Mudita, as well as Hasanka for our next session on Thrash Week. So, looking forward to that. Once again, thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.